Okay, thank you all for coming. We appreciate you being engaged. Got a pretty good crowd. Before I get started, I'm JV Johnston, District 5 Representative City Council. So before we get started, we have some distinguished guests here. Former Council Member Brian Fry. Raise your hand. Thank you. Council Member Maggie Ballard, District 6. This is right next to us, Maggie. And we also had the police chief here, Joe Sullivan. Thank you. And Captain Stevens, I don't know if you'll be there or not, but he's also here. So thank you very much. I will call the meeting to order and introduce our pro tem to run the meeting. Rachel.
Hello, thank you all for being here tonight. This is a District 5 Advisory Board, and I am Rachel, your pro tem, which means I'll be running the meeting tonight. First, I would like to introduce our new youth member, Blaine Beasley. Welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Yeah, I am.
Stand up, Blaine.
Sorry. My name is Blaine Beasley, and I'm a junior at Bishop Carroll. And some quick facts about me are that in my free time, I like lifting, hunting, fishing. And then I'm just gonna be here to kind of be involved in city government, kind of learn how it works. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. I'm biased, but we're the best district, so I'm glad that you're here. All right, moving on to approval of the agenda for February 3rd, 2025. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Approval of minutes from January 6th, 2025. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to our public agenda. I see no scheduled items, and at this time, if there's any individual present who did not request to speak on the public agenda prior to the meeting, you may speak now. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on a non-scheduled item? Thank you. All right, Teresa, let's receive and file. Next, board agenda updates, issues, and reports. JV, what's going on?
Well, it was a tough week last week. Very, very tough. Right after Maggie and I had a meeting at Reflection Ridge, it's when the plane crashed. So literally when I just got home, that's when it crashed. Very tough time in the city. Knew some people on that plane. The one family that was there, I happen to know, which makes it really hit home. Stayed at the airport till about 12:30 at night. So it was just a long day. The next day was tough. Had a very, very nice prayer vigil at City Hall. It was needed, and I think it was really good. There was an opera singer that sang the Our Father, and it literally sounded like God singing. It was so good. So it was a very nice prayer service, and it was much needed. So keep the families in your hearts and your minds and in your prayers. Very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Dennis, you're up. Dennis is our District 5 appointee for our ethics board. That was fast.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yep.
Each meeting we have many appointees to different committees around from the council from District 5. Dennis is our District 5 representative on the ethics board. So each meeting, I invite one of them to come give a presentation on what they do during those meetings. It's good for you, but it's also good for me. because I get to hear more too about what they do, so.
Awesome. It's a perfect introduction. Thank you, JV. Good evening, everyone. Dennis Clary, District 5 Advisory Board member. Tonight, as JV mentioned, I'll be addressing you on behalf of our Ethics Board. And really my purpose this evening is really just to orient you to purpose and process. What is the work and how do we go about doing it? My grace will be my request. I'm new to this board as of last year. I've only really navigated one case thus far, so I know what I know, don't know what I don't know, but happy to entertain any questions as we go on. So know that the official ordinance was only ratified really the tail end of last year, September 20th of 2024. But know that a policy had been adopted prior to that. So basically the city had been operating on a policy for approximately 3 years before it was formally incorporated into an ordinance. Where that matters is though there weren't really any material changes from the policy to the ordinance, any proposed or suggested violation that occurred before the date that the ordinance was adopted would have been held against the policy verbiage, not the ordinance, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's a lot in the ordinance in terms of what it serves to do, right? Just know that at a very high level, it doesn't depart from the values that the city of Wichita has adopted as its value representation of the organization. So those at a high level are respect, certainly ethics being the root of what this is about. No one is above reproach in our actions, stewardship, integrity, and engagement. So that kind of serves to sort of categorically identify what is in the ordinance and things that people should not be violating. The board's purpose is, of course, to enforce this ordinance, this ethics code. The process, and I'll share with you a resource on our last slide. It's all laid out. The city of Wichita does a wonderful job of providing with all the detail and references you would need. And it really outlines what you would need if you are in suspicion of a potential violation, what you would need to do to go about filing that, how it will be processed, and then how our board makes the decision about said complaints. They do need to be submitted in writing. There's a form online that's authored there. Then there's, our board is aided by some subject matter experts, right? So we have an ethics officer that is on contract with the city. Her name is Kathy Sexton. I'll also provide you with her information at the end. She works for the Wichita State University Public Policy and Management Center, and so she's on contract to help facilitate this process on behalf of the city. There is also a legal counsel that is provided to advise us on our decisions, and that individual really helps conduct the investigation. So together, they help us navigate the process and a thorough investigation. Once a complaint has been submitted, anybody that is the subject of said complaint has an opportunity to provide a written response. There's a timeline that's outlined in the ordinance. I think it might be a week, 10 days, but that individual is offered an opportunity to submit something in writing, and then the investigation ensues from that point forward. I mentioned the legal advice that we receive in executive session. And what you should know is that the votes are made in a public meeting, but maybe unlike many of you, like tonight, where you're here is because you have maybe something you want to contribute or say on an item on tonight's agenda. Though anybody, the public is welcome to attend an ethics board meeting, public comment is not a part of that process. Ultimately, when a decision is final, because the individuals have an opportunity, you might think of it as an appeal to ask for additional review. When our ethics board decision is final, it is posted for any and all to review online. In case you do want to attend our meetings, and they are only held as needed, right? So we don't have any business to conduct unless there is a violation that's been submitted, but they are at 6 p.m. the second Thursday of every month at our Evergreen Community Center and Library on the north end. And then again, depending on the needs of the particular investigation or the complaint, we might have one-off meetings more or less as needed to review. And much like tonight, the meetings are viewed on Speak page. These are our members at a glance. So much like most of our city bodies, each council person and the mayor have an appointment. And you might think of us as sort of like a static jury, right? So in other words, we don't change unless somebody concludes a term or for whatever reason has to vacate their appointment and then a substitute comes in. Otherwise, this is the current ethics board and will stay so until there is a change. Maybe also called to your attention, unlike some of our other city boards, the criteria on which to be on the ethics board is departs. It's different from maybe for obvious reasons. And so, you obviously can't be a member of the city council, neither it can't be your spouse or partner. You cannot be employed by the city, and it also can't be a spouse or partner of an employee of the city. You cannot hold elective office or be a candidate for elected office and serve on that ethics board. And then it goes into more detail, right? Again, you can't be an elected or appointed member of really any office, so to speak, or any really representation of a formal political party in any capacity, or the sort of grassroots on up and serve in this capacity. Cannot have been convicted of a felony or a crime of moral turpitude. It must have good moral standing and reputation amongst the community. And certainly, most of this is all to mitigate any potential bias or conflict of interest amongst the members of the Ethics Advisory Board. So, can't be doing business with the city either. Must be representative of our demographics. And much like you would if you were applying for a job and given an offer, a criminal background check is done on each of us as well. Here's at a glance, really the, complaints and findings really since the inception. So you can see there's been 8 in total dating back to the first quarter of 2022, with the most recent complete report here at the bottom. Of these 8, only 2 have found an individual to be in violation of the code. So about 25% of the time has an individual that's a complaint's been filed against been found in violation. Everything that I just went over at a super high level is spelled out in much more detail on this page on the city's website, including great training materials. Know that anybody in elected or an appointed capacity on behalf of the city is subject to this ordinance. So whether it's JV as an elected official, myself and my colleagues as appointed board members, we are held to the same standard. Any detailed questions can certainly be geared towards our ethics officer, Kathy, as well. And I'm always here either right now or just an email away if I can be helpful as it relates to further questions about this process. That said, that's all the long and short of what I wanted to share, unless there are any questions about the ethics board and how we go about this work. Okay.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Also like to introduce our mayor too. She can't sneak in anywhere, but Lily is involved. Thank you.
All right, moving along to staff reports. Our community policing officer, Kimmery, will report on specific concerns for beat areas in District 5.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lori Kimmery, and I am the community policing officer for the beats of 19 and 199. Basically, that's the area, everything north of Central to Mays city limits, and then everything west of Ridge Road. I brought some statistics to report today. Mostly everything is down in these areas. There's a couple of categories that we have a slight increase, and I'll go over those here right now. So on 19 beat, and that's basically everything north of 17th to Mays, pretty much Hoover over to 119th Street. We had a slight increase of, it was considered aggravated assault, but there's a lot of categories that go within that. So we had 6 more than the prior month, and those were all domestic violence related. So there were no stranger aggravated assaults. So it's not like people are, that you don't know coming over here and causing those kind of disturbances. We did have one sexual assault case reported more for a 90-day comparison, also domestic violence related. So there's no stranger on stranger assaults. So they were all known to the victim and suspect. Moving on to 199 beat, that's everything south of 17th to Central, everything west of Ridge Road. We did have a slight increase. We had 19 vehicle break-ins compared to 15 from the last 30 days. And this is a good opportunity to remind you, if you have anything in your car that's valuable, things that could be pawned, please take those things inside. Anything that people might break a window for. This includes bags, purses, wallets, loose change, any electronics. So if you have that stuff in your car, it is safe neighborhoods up here, but people go shopping for those kind of things because you're trusting that people won't break into your car. My theory is if you don't want it taken, if it's not something that you would leave on your front porch, don't leave it in your car because they'll be tempted to take it. So I don't really have a whole lot of events to report on right now. We have Second Chance Thursday. We're trying to get a location plan for that in March. We're having a little trouble finding a place to have it, especially during the NCAA tournament. It's kind of the same month, so we're still working on that. Once I get a location and a date and a time, I can get it out to everybody and spread the word on that. So that's all I have to report. Is any questions for me? No?
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Chief Ritter with the fire department.
Good evening. My name is Pete Ritter. I'm a Battalion 4 Battalion Chief. Basically, that's the Northwest, or basically Meridian West, up and down all the way through the city limits. Just go and kind of do some numbers real quick. January in District 5, there's a total of 4 fire alarms, 261 medical alarms, 86 service alarms, 151 other classified alarms. This came to a total of 502 alarms for the basically month of January to 2025. In comparison to that, the fire alarms from December were down by 2, but the overall alarms were up by 50 alarms. In December, we had 452 compared to the 502 in January. For the fourth quarter of 2024, we had a total, just in District 5 here, we had a total of 17 fire alarms, 836 medical alarms, 242 service alarms, 262 other alarms, for a total of 1,357 alarms total for just the District 5 in the last quarter. Those are kind of broke down. The ones that we really focus on are the fire alarms. That's vehicle fires, house fires, building fires, anything along that line. That's kind of our thing. But other than that, would like to announce that right as of January, we did start the first class of 2025. We have a recruit class going through. They're going to be in the EMT portions for 8 to 9 weeks, and then they will transition to the fire academy. We're looking at getting them out in early spring, out on the floor, early to late spring, out on the floor. So we're looking to have some new faces hitting the floor here shortly. That will help us out through some retirements and people leaving the department. Like to kind of piggyback on Councilman Johnson's, the airport, that was close to home. Fortunately, I did not know anybody on the plane. I currently work with the Wichita Airport Authority, with their Deputy Chief Jason Jones, as well as their captain on B shift, Joel Potter. We go out quarterly and I take crews from the Battalion 4 to the airport. He has his crews, and we do some type of evolution, whatever it might be. We walk through cargo planes, get just ins and outs. We make believe as much as we can. What could happen? What could we do if this happens? In no case scenario would I have ever thought, Black Hawk hitting a plane going in the river. We try to be as detailed as we can. Where are we going to set up staging? Where are we going to do this? Where are we going to do that? That just goes to show you don't know what's going to happen. And I have to, hats off to those first responders out there. They did a fabulous job. There's 400 and some first responders there the first night, just up and down the shoreline. So it's a pretty impressive sight, and it is a sad moment for us. So other than that, I emailed Teresa, the DAB report has additional numbers, information in it. She will include it in the findings here. But outside of that, is there any questions for me or the fire department? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, our favorite librarian for the public library report, Tracy.
You just need opportunities to meet more. Okay, so I'm Tracy Partridge. I'm the manager of the Westlake Branch Library. It is a pleasure to be here as always. The first thing that I want to do is I want to give you updates that I do have about the Westlake Branch, because right now we are at a temporary location at the intersection of Central and Bridge. We have been there for a while. And we should early spring be moving back to our permanent site. We unfortunately do not have a definite date because we ran into some hiccups. That's what I call them. They were pretty big hiccups. But in positive news, one of the issues that we had is we had issues with our skylight leaking. That was not part of our construction project and it happened after the construction occurred. And so then we had to get someone to fix the skylight that had been there for 40 years. And so they were actually working on that today, which is a relief. The next step with that skylight part, they were working on the exterior. So the next part is to actually have work done on the interior. Because when we had a big rain, which we haven't had a lot of big rains in Wichita, you know, but we did have one. It actually damaged the brand new ceiling tiles, et cetera. So they had to be replaced. And that will take a while because they're kind of intricately laid. Another thing, the hiccup that we ran into was shelving. Shelving has been shipped or it's on its way to being shipped. They tell me that it's gonna be here February 10th. So my fingers are crossed. Everyone who works with me, their fingers are crossed. So hopefully with all of that, shelving will be here February 10th. We've got furniture set to come, one shipment mid-February, another shipment mid-March. So that's kind of like where we are with that project. Once we get that done, then we're gonna be moving hundreds of boxes of books back to the library. So it will be an undertaking, but very exciting. And we do plan on having the DAB meeting in April at the Westlink Branch permanent site, whether we are open or not. We will have places for you to sit, so we won't give you like little story time, you know, squares. We will have actual chairs and tables if we're not. So we have that. Now I will talk about like just some other library news. The first thing that I want to mention, if anyone has a child between the ages of 1 and 3, or knows someone with a child between the ages of 1 and 3, right now the Downtown Library Advanced Learning Library is hosting a parent-child workshop every Saturday from 10:30 to 11:30. It's actually a weekly play set. It's really hard to say session. A weekly play session. And at each of those sessions throughout the month of February, they will have a specialist on child development so that parents have the opportunity to talk with individuals about literacy, speech, hearing, nutrition, movement, while their little ones are occupied. In February, it is Black History Month. The library is actually partnering with Dr. Latasha Kelly. She actually owns Left on Read, which is Wichita's only Black-owned bookstore. And with Latasha, we are actually going to be hosting a year-long series which honors Black culture. Because we don't just want to focus 1 month on it, we want to spend the year on it. Each quarter, Dr. Kelly is going to host a different event focused on a different aspect of the Black experience. She's going to do presentations, panel discussions, interactive sessions, a lot of different things. The first thing will actually be a keynote lecture that will be at the Advanced Learning Library on February 19th at 6. And the point of that keynote lecture is to foster more meaningful engagement with the Black community by consistently honoring Black experiences all year. It's how to foster. Now, February is also American Heart Month, and so the library is working with K-State Research and Extension Office of Sedgwick County and the American Heart Association to offer several programs on heart health. There will be Let's Get Down with Blood Pressure at the Walters Branch on February 6th at 5:30, the Advanced Learning Library on February 25th at 10:30. There will be one called Nutrition and Fitness for Cardiovascular Wellness on February 11th at 10:30 at the Advanced Learning Library. And then No Diabetes by Heart on February 18th at 10:30 Advanced Learning Library. That is a lot to say and probably a lot to hear. Probably better to just go online to the Wichita Library's website at wichitalibrary.org to our event schedule and see everything that the library is doing. I do want to mention also that the library is hosting its 39th annual Academy Award Shorts Film Festival. That actually starts February 22nd. It's a week-long event. The Advanced Learning Library and the Evergreen Community Center and Library will be hosting screenings. The Advanced Learning Library will be hosting all-day screenings on February 22nd and March 1st. So that's 5 short films in live action, 5 in animation, and 5 in documentary. And we've been doing this since 1986. That's an incredibly long time. Final thing, all Wichita Public Library locations are closed on Monday, February 17th in honor of President's Day. Every time I say a time that the library is closed, I say And I think they could say it for me. Even when the library is not open, we are open. Because you have access to over 40,000 ebooks and e-audiobooks. We have a streaming movie service called Canopy, and we have over 40 databases with things like New York Times, Wichita Eagle, Consumer Reports, Mango Languages, if you want to learn one of 75 languages, all sorts of fabulous resources that you have access to with your Wichita Public Library card. If you do not have access to one now, it is not too late to get one. You don't even have to go to the library to get one. If you have a phone, you can call and we will issue an e-card over the phone. Okay, I'm very passionate about libraries. I absolutely love libraries. I've worked for libraries an incredibly long time. And so there we go. Any questions? This was like more than usual, wasn't it? They're like exhausted and they're like, please go.
Tracy, listen, we could meet a million librarians, but there's only one you.
You're the best, Tracy. We love
Thank you
you.
very much. You guys have a great day.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our Park and Recreation Department. Gary, are you here? There you are.
Offended that I wasn't pointed out as one of the distinguished guests.
You're
I will,
you're our
We'll resolve
favorite
that
Park
later.
and Rec guy.
You might be the most distinguished.
oh, I know that. All right, so the maintenance, my name is Gary Ferris. I'm with the Park and Recreation Department. I'm the division manager for the maintenance section, maintenance division. So projects that we have going on in District 5 include the Country Acres Dog Park. I've mentioned it before. It is set to open late this spring. Art is going well. Construction is almost completely finished. So that project is going rather well and is scheduled to be open on time. The Park Wetlands Park Phase 3, which is a boardwalk and some art at that park, that is scheduled to be completed this spring. And then we also have selected a contractor for the playground at Park Wetlands. And that election will be going before council on March 4th. And if all goes well and all is passed, that project, that playground project should be completed by August of this year. That is all for the projects side that I have, but I did want to bring your attention to the Evolve Guide. I brought several. I know some of you have picked these up. This is the guide that is produced by the Park and Recreation Department that has all of the classes that our department offers. And I'm not going to read them to you. I'll save that. But all of this information, while it is in print, is also online. You can access that through the City of Wichita website, Park and Recreation Department. You can get the Evolve Guide. So with that being said, are there any questions for Park and Recreation? All right.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Distinguished guest.
All right, I'd like to receive and file all staff reports.
So
Is there-
moved.
Thank you. Second, thank you. Motion approves. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approves. Okay, new business, golf cart ordinance, our feature presentation.
Like to note that the lawyer was not a distinguished guest.
That was intentional.
Okay, I know where I read now.
This kid. Sharon, introduce yourself.
I'm Sharon Dick Graffin with the City Law Department. I'm here today to present the golf cart ordinance as it is currently written. Currently, as a little background, state statute prohibits the operation of golf carts on city streets unless the city has passed an ordinance allowing such golf carts to operate. Golf carts cannot operate on roads that are posted 30 miles per hour or faster. The ordinance allows the operation of golf carts on certain streets, prohibits golf carts on public highways and arterial streets, those that have a limit higher than 30 miles per hour, and in the core area, which is defined by the ordinance as Murdoch on the north, Hydraulic to the east, 54 to the south, and Seneca, Nims Avenue, and Stackman to the west. Golf carts cannot cross highways or arterial streets. Golf carts must display a slow-moving vehicle emblem. There is a registration fee of $75 per year. Proof of liability insurance is required. Operation of golf carts is prohibited on sidewalks, walking trails, bike paths. Operation of golf carts is prohibited outside the hours of 30 minutes after sunrise and 30 minutes before sunset. It prohibits the operation of golf carts by drivers under 18, and it requires that all golf cart operation comply with traffic laws. Penalties: violation is a traffic infraction with a fine not exceeding $500. And I would stand for questions. I would like to correct one comment that was made at the last meeting, that our ordinance is the most, or proposed ordinance is the most strict in the state or nation. That's not correct. Valley Center actually only authorizes the operation of golf carts to and from their public course.
So where we're at now is this passed the first reading. Okay, passed 4-3, first reading, came to some outcry from public. So when it came back for the second reading, I pulled it to get more input. Got advice from Maggie, Councilmember Tuttle, and some other ones. Hey, let's get some more input from it. So that's the place we're at now, is input. We like this, do we not even want one? Do we want it less restrictive? So that's the input we're asking for today. So does anybody have any questions for Sharon as of right now?
Sure, I'll get called back up.
Well, I have one question dealing with the speed limit. The first thing you said, it was, I think you said 30 miles an hour or above, and then it was up to 30 miles an hour. So is it proposed that it would be speed limits above 30?
No.
No.
State law prohibits the operation of golf carts on a roadway with a posted speed limit in excess of 30 miles per hour.
Okay, that's about 30.
Yes, so if it's 30, you can operate.
30, all
If
right.
it's 35, 40, 50,
30
75,
miles, no, 30 is okay.
yes.
Board, do we have any questions for right now? Not at this time. Okay. So we will move to our public audience here. Everybody gets about 3 minutes to speak. If you could, when you come up to the podium, tell our lovely Teresa your name and your address. If we'll start at this front row and then kind of snake our way back. Please don't repeat what somebody else has said, so bring fresh new ideas to the podium. Dennis, would you be able to keep a timer on 3 minutes? So
If anybody wants to be first, can come right up here in front. You can be first if you're right here.
I've got some copies, but not enough for everybody.
Okay.
okay, that's all right.
I mean, Steve Blackman, LLC, gave me a lot. What I've got to say, I've put down in a written format, and rather than trying to miss some of the things I want to cover, I'm going to read it. So I apologize for being so boring in that regard, but it'll also keep me focused and not get emotional. Current city ordinance, as was originally stated by the lawyer from the city of Wichita, will cost all the users $75 annually, require liability insurance, require additional safety features such as reflectors, seat belts, tail lamps, rear view mirrors, require age requirements of 18 at least and a driver's license, not to be used on streets above 30 miles an hour, and you cannot cross arterial roadway. Cannot be used on sidewalks, bike or high paths, and require a slow moving emblem, and you cannot use it after dark. The Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, called WAMPO, of which 3 City of Wichita council members represent Wichita on the policy board, TPB. The TPB promotes complete streets They promote modes of transportation that reduce the use of fossil fuels. In fact, the Technical Advisory Committee, TAC, has representation of Wichita staff and other communities, plus local bicycle enthusiasts and an air quality expert. WAMPO has funded many paths and trails with Wichita to provide access for bikes, scooters, e-bikes as a means to promote different modes of transportation. There are currently plans to build charging stations in and around our community for e-vehicles. WAMPO and Wichita Transit has acquired electric buses and eliminated diesel buses so fossil fuels can be eliminated and air quality improved. All the modes of transportation are being addressed, but not golf carts, in a manner that they can be fully utilized to the maximum. Why not allow golf carts to be used on sidewalks or bike paths? Cars, trucks have to share streets with bicycles, joggers, and e-scooters. Think about adjoining commercial developments that could be utilized via golf carts, which some are now if you traverse through the neighborhood, but more could be utilized if bike paths are used. And the reduction of traffic on the street and the burning of fuels. After all, during the summer, we're advised to mow in the evening so as to not increase pollution, or mow with e-mowers. Same principle applies to golf carts. They're different, they're efficient environmentally, and reduce cars on the roadway. My point in all this is for 30 plus years in our neighborhood, we've used golf carts for various uses. Folks from outside our neighborhood has traversed sidewalks, paths, intersections to come into our neighborhood to
Sir,
enjoy.
it's 3 minutes.
Okay, one final,
I'll go next to get my 3 minutes.
one final sentence.
Oh, just a second, he can finish up.
Is that okay? Okay.
One final sentence. He can
The
do it.
WPD is overrun fighting the bad guys. They do not need to waste their time enforcing a golf cart ordinance that to this date has had minimal impacts on our community.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Go ahead and start with this first row. Did anybody up here like to speak? No? All right, moving on. Next row. No? Russell, are you in the next row?
Yeah,
Would you like to speak?
sure. I wasn't planning on saying, my name is Russell Fox. I will live at 605 North Westling. Westling neighborhood is directly adjacent to the Rolling Hills Country Club. We've lived there 20 years, well, 19 years. Golf carts have been a regular presence all throughout that neighborhood the entire time we've lived there. I will not deny that it has sometimes been kind of annoying because sometimes kids are on these golf carts and they're traveling kind of fast. Our church is right at the corner of Rolling Hills Drive, and you know, I've seen a couple during the summers, a couple of close calls between some people moving fast on the golf carts with cars exiting the parking lot. And I think it's reasonable to exercise a certain amount of restrictions. That said, in close-in neighborhoods, this is a really efficient form of transportation. And it's a form of transportation, especially for people on limited incomes, that is pretty efficient, that is relatively cost-effective. I don't know, you know, to what degree that actually matches up with the demographics of the people who tend to have golf carts within their own garages. But I've followed the stories about the golf cart restrictions, and I recognize that I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have a golf cart of my own, but I've lived around them for 20 years. I know that, you know, sometimes there's always going to be incidences that will give people some concern, but I also know a lot of people rely upon them. And frankly, on summer evenings, I know that I've often seen parents and grandparents taking kids and grandkids out on the golf carts, taking them around the streets. It's just a pleasant way to get the kids out and about in the neighborhood. I would hope that whatever kind of restrictions are developed, they're not gonna prevent that kind of in-community use that takes place. Thank you.
Next row, sir. No? Anybody on that next row? All right, Lily Woothrow, Mayor Woothrow.
I would just like to state, I mean, we've talked about a little bit of the neighborhood component and what we get and what we gain from these golf carts. It seems so small, but in my world, in my life, it's, you know, going out at Halloween with my children, there's around 50 to 100 at, you know, any time in our neighborhood. We drive around, we decorate our carts. It is definitely evening. It's nighttime. It's the joy of our lives. And I bought a golf cart to drive it on Halloween with my kids. It's something that made my community and remained, you know, keeps where I live special. I really love driving to the pool with my children. I don't mind letting my 16-year-old drive himself to the pool while I work. You know, we have worked very, very hard to live and give our children a life that we never had. Part of that is a cheap, slow golf cart that I have. It is not fast. It's a 2005. It goes maybe 10 miles per hour. And I really would like to say that on one hand, we're talking about potential safety issues. On the other hand, if you drive up to the Northwest Y, there's a bike trail that leads on 21st Street to that Y. It is absolutely so dangerous, and we're allowing our children. So it just seems really protectual. I also would like to counter that this is not the most restrictive golf cart ordinance, because it is. There is no other golf cart ordinance in the United States that requires an 18-year-old driver, that does not allow you to cross arterial streets. This would really limit a lot of our neighbors who come into our neighborhood and golf. All that goes away. All the ramifications to these courts or courses and our pickleball court. You know, there's lots of unintentional consequences on this ordinance. So I would ask for some restrictions. I'm okay with 16, but if we have what we would consider a street safe cart, that should be good. And just on the record, the state statute covered golf cart usages until a couple of years ago. It was not widely known to anyone. So we all thought if we had street safe golf carts, that was okay. This ordinance, we didn't know we needed it. And so we've been acting as if we were still under the state statute. So I think that's very important, because if you look at the sorts of safety issues that happen, wrecks or cart, it's very, very limited with as much as we've used them. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bert Ushery. I actually live in Clearwater, but I'm the general manager of Reflection Ridge Golf. So it's hard as you get later in not to repeat something somebody already has. So I'm just going to get a couple high points. We have about 190 private golf carts that come to Reflection Ridge. So as you can imagine, a couple of things are come into play. If you're licensed to drive a car, you can be licensed at 16. That should just be enough said. If you're licensed, you're licensed. That will affect a lot of our high school golfers who come to our course. If you move it to 18, they would have to have a parent bring them to a golf course to golf. And so that's pretty restrictive. Golf courses under the exclusions of this are not included, but it does affect us. The other thing is, if a golf cart you buy today, you buy it, it has seat belts, you ought to be required to wear them. If it doesn't, you should not have to worry about that. If it had lights, tail lights, you ought to be able to use it after dark, just like you do a car. If it doesn't, you ought to be restricted. There's already laws in effect that cover this. You can't drive a car after hours without lights. We have lots of events, both at our pool, all the golf courses in town have events that end after dark and they must get home. Our carts on the course do not have lights and they're not authorized on the streets other than to pass across a road to get from one side of the golf course to the other. We don't allow them after dark, so it doesn't affect us, but affects a large majority of our membership. The other thing I'd like to, the only other thing I'll highlight that hasn't been talked about is from a safety perspective, like everybody else, I think that we see at times there might be more than it's on a golf cart that should be. They may be going faster than they should be. That's no different than a car. If someone is stopped and they're operating a golf cart unsafely, they should be treated the same way if they're operating a vehicle unsafely. So that should not change just because it's a golf cart. So that's my 2 cents.
Over here, gentlemen.
Staff remote. 2517 North Spring Village Circle. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I am a resident of Reflection Ridge. Some of the points I will be making are a little bit redundant, but there's worth repeating, I believe. I believe any licensed person should be able to lawfully drive a golf cart. I believe operating a golf cart after dark should be legal as long as it has the lights, headlights, taillights, brakes, turn signals, and a horn. I believe that a one-time permitting fee would be adequate. I think that. Yes. I think that having a recurring annual fee would be one of those things that's be more bureaucracy and more headaches than it might be worth. I don't have a problem with the $75 or I also don't have a problem with liability insurance. I think those are fine. I think golf carts should be able to cross arterial streets, but they need to be able to do it at intersections where you have a stoplight or a stop sign. I also believe golf carts should be able to share sidewalks. However, they need to be yielding to pedestrians or bikes that might be on the sidewalks. Finally, again, seat belts. I don't know that I know any of our golf carts have seat belts. Bert mentioned we have over 190 carts that are privately owned. I doubt if any of those have seat belts. And I know that none of the horse-owned golf carts have got seat belts. And of course, I play at Rolling Hills, all the other places, and none of those have seat belts. So those are my things, and I thank you. Thanks. May I do that, please?
3 minutes, yes.
You only get 2. John Brulette, 87 BROUILLETT. 8725 Western Avenue. I now get 2.5 minutes. It took too long to spell my name. On the last page, it talks about a financial consideration that the licensing fees would offset the administrative costs of dealing with the ordinance. And if we look at 190 carts at Reflection at $75 each, what is that? $14,000 a year to administer something that I don't know has cost anything per year now. So much of that money would probably be spent with administrative, writing stuff down and saying, Will, you didn't pay your $75, so we're coming out to arrest you. I don't know if there is no cost of administering presently. I don't know if we need $75 a year to administer something that doesn't exist. Thanks.
Gentleman in that back corner.
Well, most of my comments got taken too, and I'm for allowing the golf courts to drive around, but a couple things that haven't been said yet that I think are worth saying is, one of the things that I've noticed after recently purchasing a golf cart, and it's something that you can get when you go out for an evening ride. It's unbelievable how many people acknowledge you. People, I don't know, neighborhood people, everyone's courteous, they wave, they come to the street to meet you. If you want to meet your neighbors, go see your family. It's really unbelievable. It does. It lets you meet your community, that's for sure. And the other thing that hasn't been said is, I think that you're gonna see, and I think you're already starting to see it today. Businesses are putting restaurants and ice cream shops and Sonic, I mean, all that stuff is out near the neighborhoods that people can get to. More people supporting those businesses. A new business on 27th and Tyler. They got golf cart parking signs already. They haven't even opened their restaurant. Those things mean more than just the golf cart owners, the community and the businesses. There's money to be made, and businesses to survive and thrive if we encourage this. And, I think the city has got to make accommodations and show support and grow for our community and our small businesses. Thank you.
Anybody up along the window here? All right, you're up. Brian.
My name is Josh Counts, Reflection Ridge resident for 3 years. Don't arrest me, but I've been driving my cart on the streets with my kids. So I'm sorry about that. Couple things I believe need to be changed. A lot of these have been addressed. Remove the registration fee and the sticker requirement. We don't need any of that. The seatbelt requirement is unnecessary. It's an incurred cost on cart owners. Many carts only offer aftermarket seatbelts. They don't have factory seatbelts. It's also an unnecessary requirement. It's a calculated risk. Same thing if you're going to ride a scooter, a bicycle, a motorcycle. It's calculated risk. You get a golf cart, you know what you're signing up for. We don't need to dumb it down and regulate it. The speed limit, I think, should be increased to 30 miles per hour. If you're gonna be on 30-mile-per-hour roads, it just makes sense for safety. You don't want someone on your tail if you're driving a golf cart and you don't have a seatbelt. You'd like to be able to go with the flow of traffic. So I think the speed limit should be increased to 30 miles per hour. Also, the seating should be increased to 6 people max. There are cart dealerships right now in Wichita that sell 6-seat carts. So that should be increased to 6 seats. I would say the rule, well, we'll get to the rule in that in a second. Obviously, the age requirement should go, just require a driver's license, remove the nighttime ban, as long as you have lights, and obviously the sidewalk path and trail rules all can go. I don't think this is about safety. No studies were cited about golf cart related wrecks. No evidence of golf carts being unsafe compared to motorcycles or scooters downtown. No WPD statistics. I was a Wichita firefighter for 5 years. Worked downtown for 2 years during the time that the scooters got introduced. And we had a tally mark on the board of how many scooter wrecks we'd go to during the week because it was just out of control. But those are still, allowed. We didn't regulate those, didn't require stickers on those types of things on like bicycles and things like that. Our course was designed in a way 30 years ago where you have to cross the street multiple times while you're playing golf. And so it's important that that's, taken off. So what should be done? Require the driver's license, like we said, require headlights, taillights, turn signals. All passengers should remain seated, and find the violators, not the law-abiding citizens. So instead of giving us a registration fee, charge $500 fines if you see people hanging off the cart, standing up. I see it. My house backs up to one of the main roads, and I see kids hanging on the carts, underage drivers. That can be addressed without, addressing the adults. So, thank you.
Very back row.
I
Alright,
just have a question for the police officers. My name's Josh Shepis, 2325 North Ridgefield, SCHEPIS. 2325 North Ridgefield. I live in Reflection Ridge. How many tickets were issued to golf cart drivers not complying last year? You got any idea?
Probably zero.
Probably zero. So we're changing something that we have books, laws on the books for. We're not, and the last thing I want is our police officers to be going around Reflection Ridge looking for tickets and stuff. I think this is more of a, we've seen 14, 15, 16-year-olds driving crazy and people are scared for them. So we're knee-jerk reaction here and adding all this stuff. It's gonna cost me $525 to make my golf cart street legal because you can't just attach an anchor for a seatbelt to a plastic piece in your cart. You have to go underneath and you have to attach it to the frame. And the cheapest I've been able to see is $525 just to add seatbelts to mine. So I think that would be very restrictive and cost prohibitive. I would probably sell my golf cart and that would, my granddaughters would not like that. But I think it's just a little bit more education on these places, websites for their Facebook pages would go a long way. And neighborhoods maybe holding those 14, 15-year-old parents a little bit more accountable. But again, I don't want police officers having to waste their time coming by and ticketing people who are law abiding, just driving their golf cart down to the swimming pool so they can go swimming after dark. So I would say keep it the way that it is. And if we need to pour some money into education, that's Reflection Ridge community would be more than willing to write a check for a little bit of education for some people. So
You said community.
Josh, you want to keep it illegal?
No.
It's illegal right now.
Right, we need to make it less restrictive. The
Like
law
less
that we're
restricted, okay.
proposing needs to be less restrictive. I don't,
Okay.
$75, we don't charge people with e-bikes any money to have those. Why are we charging people with golf carts? So I think we don't need a fee. We need a little bit of education. I don't know any golf cart that goes 30 miles an hour. Mine only goes 20. The new lithium batteries fast. Anyway, I'm uneducated in this maybe. Thank you.
alright.
C elevator. Like this one.
Yeah.
Yep. Some kind of 20. 30, it's like sort of that. That's pretty much it. I'm a resident of Reflection Ridge, been there for 18 years now. I'm also a member of the golf course. I pretty much agree with most of the comments been made up here. The seatbelt thing to me, actually the way it stands now, I can't believe that there would be 2% of the golf carts in the entire city of Wichita that would meet these requirements. Because seatbelts really haven't been an option until about 3 years ago, probably to order on a new cart. So, and even now, I don't even know if E-Z-GO and the big brands, if you're trying to buy just a 2-seat golf cart, just for golf, I don't even think it's an option from the factory to buy seatbelts. So those restrictions, plus I've also seen being in a seatbelt, especially if the golf cart turns over, is probably the most dangerous thing you could possibly do because chances are the batteries you got 600 or 400 pounds of batteries sitting underneath your butt. So when you flip, batteries will come out, and there's YouTube videos and stuff. It's not pretty. I'd rather be thrown from the cart than have batteries land on it. Another thing is the slow moving sign. My understanding of a slow moving triangle is to inform other drivers on the road that you cannot meet the speed limit typically. So with it being only 30 and I'm only allowed to be on roads that can do 30,
why would I, and my cart will do in excess of 30. Why would I need to post a sign on my golf cart? I mean, they're fairly good size. You're gonna put down the back where golf clubs go. It can be an inconvenience there, but again, my understanding of a slow moving triangle is to notify people that are on the roadways that you're moving slower than the speed limit, post a speed limit, so. I don't know if it should be a blanket statement for all golf carts on the road that everybody should have to have one, especially if you don't really meet the requirements of it. And that's about it. Like I said, pretty much everybody else covered most everything, so those are just my points on that.
Thank you, Mike. You have against the wall, Chris?
My name is Chris Ketzner. I am a realtor in a community called Castlegate. It's at 119th and Central. I have about 60 homeowners that live there currently, and about 8 of them have golf carts. There are 2 people in the neighborhood that are making themselves police. I actually did get a police officer come visit me on May Day as I was delivering May Day flowers to all the residents that live there because I was using my golf cart. It was just an easy way to do it, flip down the back, delivered flowers to everybody that lived there. The cops came to see me that day. No, it's not an inconvenience to anyone. It isn't hurting anything. I think if we do what we're doing and just everyone is aware, there would not be a problem. Crossing the arterial streets, I think if we don't make it legal, people will do it anyway. The cop that came to visit me told me that, he said, I will not ever give a golf cart ticket unless my officer absolutely tells me I have to. He was just doing his job. So I think it should be a legal thing. And the restrictions that everyone has mentioned, I agree with. I believe that the public will do what you all decide, and I will leave it up to professionals for that. But I just wanted to say that I think it should be allowed.
Thank you, Chris.
Interject just a little bit. So the reason this came about is because Chris came to our May District Advisory Board meeting and requested that we make it legal. So that is the reason. It's not somebody calling about kids or anything. The reason is Chris came and did that. Since May, we've been working on this thing with multiple meetings and everything else, so.
So now y'all hate me.
Yeah. No, it's good. We should
Well, I think that if
see.
the Derby and Andover and Mays and Goddard all allow it, I just didn't understand why Wichita didn't.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yep.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Eugene Snyder. I live downtown at the Water Walk. And I also happen to be president of the board of the Water Walk HOA. My husband and I have lived downtown since 2014. And we love living downtown and we encourage people to live downtown. And our building, we do have some older people like us. And we do walk, but we discovered golf carts, and that is been a great way to get around downtown, Old Town, and Delano. And so I am here addressing the issues. My understanding that golf carts in this ordinance could be all over town, but they can't be driven in downtown, Delano, and Old Town. We have had our golf cart for 9 years. We see the police officers all the time, and in fact, during the NCAA, we help shuttle police officers back and forth. Honestly, we are the only golf cart that I know about downtown, except for during Riverfest, we have golf carts. During NCAA, there are some golf carts. St. Patrick's Day Parade and ICT open streets. As you know, downtown does have a parking problem. And we are encouraging people to live downtown. So I really am a little confused why downtown would be discriminated against. There's lots of places to park downtown. So I am disappointed in that. And if it's safety, let me share life with living with scooters. Those scooters are allowed to go in parking garages. We have had several people going around a corner almost hit those scooters. Maybe we need to have, if you're gonna ride a scooter, you need to enter into the computer program your driver's license. And maybe you need to enter in some insurance because we have had those scooters take out 2 of our garage doors at the Water Walk. And those people do not leave their name or their phone number or how we can contact them. And to replace a garage door at the Water Walk is $1,400. And we actually have gone to the city and asked them to work with the scooter companies that are, I don't know if they're licensed or granted a permit, but direct them to turn their scooters off so they will not work in a parking garage. So if you're talking about safety, I would suggest that we look at the scooters. Those people leave those scooters in parking spaces. You know how frustrating it is to pull into Larkspur and you see a spot? Oh, that's my tire. I apologize.
You're good.
Anyway, pull in and there is a scooter in a complete parking spot. Or to be walking down the street, and there's a scooter. It is really a safety concern.
Thank you, Lucy. Anybody else? Did we miss anybody? Okay, all right, we'll bring it back to the board. Any comments or,
Is anybody online that wants to?
oh, I'm sorry, anybody online?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep, see, I can.
we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Chuck Parsons. I wrote Mr. Johnston, I think it was a week ago, an email. So my address and information is on that, so I don't have to repeat that. When I first heard about the golf cart thing going on was from the news. And I was quite surprised that Wichita did not have an ordinance allowing golf carts. I come from an experience in Phoenix, Arizona. There were a lot of retirement communities out there. The one I liked the best was Sun City West. They went through this very same thing starting in the 70s of trying to allow golf carts. Over the years, it expanded into a mode of transportation where people used the golf carts to go to shopping centers, to movies, to dinners, and it worked out very well, but they found they had to get some very good rules because you take most golf carts, the people in this room, as I see, probably have the standard golf cart that goes maybe 25 miles an hour. Somebody out there will hop that up and it'll go 60. Okay, I've seen it. So they had to put some rules on it. I'm not sure I agree with all of the things in the ordinance as written. I finally found a copy of it on the city website. It was listed in the city agenda under the wrong number. So, but I found the right number as 52608. But anyways, I believe that the age limit is a little wrong. That's my personal belief, because we allow a 16-year-old kid to drive a 600 horsepower car down the street, okay, at 90 miles an hour. Now, he gets a speeding ticket, but he's allowed to drive the car. So 18, I would lower it to any legal driver's license, okay, which I believe is 16 in Kansas. I'm not sure I passed that age a long time ago, but I think that the other obstacle is sidewalks. I believe in Scottsdale, they found out that it was allowed on sidewalks if the sidewalk was, it was either 8 or 12 feet wide. It was enough room for two carts to pass, like on a two-way road. Otherwise, you get a bottleneck, and you get people coming up behind. Somebody has to go off on the grass, and a golf cart going off on the grass sometimes does damage. So, but I really think it would be a good boon for most of the golf carts to be able to get to.
Chuck,
Yes.
you've reached your 3 minutes. Do you have any closing remarks?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I think you should reevaluate a couple of the more restrictive rules in the ordinance as it was written, but I think it's needed. I think we really need to allow golf carts.
Thank you. Keith, I hate to put you on the spot here, but would you like to add anything to this discussion before we move on?
Oh, we're just here to give advice.
Okay.
This isn't our initiative.
All right, thank you. All right. Board, any comments, concerns, additional items you'd like to, yes, Mary?
I don't think the people in our neighbor, I live in Ridgeport. And if I'm reading this correctly, 29th Street is 40 miles an hour. Ridge is 40 miles an hour. So and you can't drive on a golf cart on a sidewalk according to this. So the people who live in our neighborhood would not be able to go from Ridgeport to Reflection Ridge, which quite a few golfers in our neighborhood golf at Reflection Ridge. So that would restrict them from using their golf cart to get from our neighborhood, because they could get out of the neighborhood, but not to 29. They couldn't cross Ridge. They can't be on a sidewalk. So they wouldn't be able to use their golf cart and would, instead of being in their golf cart, be in a car. And so I think they would prefer to be in their golf cart and they're using it and have it there instead of in some way have to.
They'd have to be allowed on sidewalks.
They have to be allowed on the sidewalk to be able to do it. Also the license, I was wondering why the 18-year-old saying that you had to be an adult to be able to drive. I didn't understand why that was placed in the ordinance, because as many people have said, we allowed 16-year-olds to drive and they drive an automobile. I'd rather have them be in a golf cart and drive at a lower range then. So I didn't understand where that came from and why it had to be an adult and not a licensed driver. But there are some other really good things. I got the liability insurance, I think is important. After having a golf cart run into my fence and have to replace my iron fence, I was very appreciative that the people had liability insurance. So I can see that you have to have insurance in case something happens, just as you would for an automobile. But the licensing, but not on the sidewalk. The 30 is a state ordinance, so we have to follow that state statute. But that not on the sidewalks would make the difference from my neighborhood to get to Reflection Ridge.
Thank you, Mary. Grace, did you have a question?
I have a lot of thoughts. I do have a question though. So yeah, and what Mary was saying is like, what happens in the instance of 29th and Ridge and maybe I'm too far in the what ifs, but that's my biggest pinch point is 29th and Ridge. And JV's aware, because I tell JV all the time, people are driving in yards and then pulling out in front of folks. It's like, how are we going to alleviate that kind of behavior in that area?
There's no yard. I have a suggestion. We apparently need an ordinance for it to be legal for the carts to be on the street. All right, so I say that we have an ordinance that, okay, it's legal. we have 0 fee, and if you have to cross a main artery, you follow the same rules as a pedestrian.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
All right, we're gonna keep the discussion back to the board members. Do we have any additional comments?
Not necessarily a comment, but an observation, and that is, I understand that this is a ordinance for the entire city. But yet the reality is that it's only certain parts of the city where golf carts are predominantly used. Like I've lived in Amorato and I live in Briarwood right now. I've never seen a golf cart in those communities. So I don't know whether the city would be willing to leave it up to the individual HOAs to develop their rules for use.
No.
No, you're out.
The HOA cannot.
But it seems like it's kind of a non-issue for most of the population of the community. It's only certain neighborhoods, particularly golf neighborhoods, that need golf carts.
Not true.
We're gonna keep the discussion to the board. We don't vote on anything
I'd like
tonight,
to have,
right?
I would like to have some kind of vote. Either keep the ordinance, no ordinance, keep them not legal everywhere, keep the ordinance the same as it's written now, or make it less restrictive. Those three options.
We do have the state statute though, that we have to follow.
We
We
do.
would have the states, if there was no ordinance, it wouldn't be, it
It'd be
would be not adding to the state statute. Is that basically what we're saying, using the state statute as our?
If there's no ordinance, they would remain illegal
Right.
on all streets and sidewalks.
I think the overall consensus is that people think that this is too restrictive. However, I did hear a lot of people saying that they did feel like some restrictions are needed. So I don't know that I can give you a yes or no based on that, other than, maybe it needs further discussion and some of the restrictions looked at again prior to any sort of formal put on the passing.
A bicycle needs a light, doesn't it? But no,
Not anymore.
not anymore, used to be.
Used to be.
Okay.
Cause I got pulled over once when I was a kid. No license.
Okay, so there's no restriction of
No,
light.
no license on bicycle. Yes.
Yeah, some questions. I appreciate the origin story you shared, how, I think, was it Chris or May, who brought it? Yeah. From May, and discussions have ensued since then. In terms of the design of the ordinance, has that been left primarily to city staff? What was there citizen input? I missed this, okay. And because I think what I'm hearing is generally where I would land if we were to vote is that an ordinance to bring it into legal status would be helpful. I guess maybe what I would qualify as less restrictive or tweaked restrictions, because as I was hearing people speak, there was comments for a number of the provisions in the current ordinance, from a core area to the emblem, to a registration annually versus a one-time permit, to should it obey general traffic laws or should there be exceptions? So it sounds like, and right, the devil's always in the details. It sounds like there are a number of details that maybe need to be addressed in the, if this ordinance is to become final, and maybe the inclusion of some stakeholders could help with that design.
So I'm in agreement that there is already existing infrastructure in surrounding communities that allow for the usage of golf carts. So I think that that's definitely something that, in terms of the Wichita community, that we should make an exception for. But I also think that there's an opportunity to look at the ordinances in surrounding areas and to bring our particular ordinance more in alignment with those other ones. Because looking at the $75 fee, I think that that's, from what I've seen in Goddard and what I want to say that I saw in Derby, that those fees were nowhere near as aggressive. And I want to say one of the communities, it was a one-time fee, one of them was an annual fee. So I think that there's definitely, we should have the legality to allow the folks in the community to use their golf carts, but we also have the opportunity to look at existing ordinances in place to bring this one in closer alignment to what's already been successful out there.
So are we saying we don't have enough information to make a motion to vote?
Well, I just like some kind of guidance. if somebody can make a motion, vote on it, make it, you don't have to do the specifics. But if you want them less restrictive, make a motion to look at them and make it less restrictive, vote on that. If you want to keep the same, vote on that. So,
I think your third option is the best one right now. I'll look at the ordinances as the way they're written and see if we can't adjust some of them based upon the input we received tonight.
I will tell you this, anybody get my newsletter? If you signed up there, you're gonna get it now. So I hope you do get it. On the newsletter, there is a poll to make it legal or not legal. And that poll is about 64% for, 36% against. I think that's right. At least that's what it was a couple of days ago when Teresa looked at it. So 36% of people wanted golf carts illegal everywhere. And the reasoning that I heard from that was not that they're against golf carts, they're against 12 and 13-year-olds joyriding through neighborhoods on golf carts. So I think without a doubt, we have to, just a second. I think without a doubt, we have to address that before somebody gets killed or hurt. 12, 13-year-old gets killed or hurt. So 64%, I think most of you are part of that 64%. I say there's people who say no golf carts, that's their reasoning is young kids, parents allowing young kids to drive them. So, Stephanie?
If you could pull up that survey though, the questions were skewed. And so either you agree that it should be legal with the restrictions, or if you don't believe that it should be legal with the restrictions, you could only push no. And so you're either damned if you do or damned if you don't. So if no, I don't want this restrictive, or I won't answer it at all. And that was actually the feedback that I provided on the newsletter.
Okay, that could be too.
But it is, I mean, we could pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So that could be another reason for no.
Right.
So, yeah, could be too. So,
Go ahead.
any other comments? Yeah,
General comments, okay now?
sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would just say that it is impossible to legislate good parenting or even reasonable parenting. Can't happen. The other thing I would say is that our community's been in place for 36 years. And this is a problem, and we're trying to address issues that for the most part, we don't have. And so it's hard for us to see as a citizen what the value is to the imposition of a new structure, especially connected to this annual revenue stream. It feels oppressive. It really does. I'm all for not letting kids drive, and I'm all for safety and reasonable kinds of restrictions. But I think what this young man over here said is absolutely true. Look around and see what other communities have done. And for once, let's try to pattern something after something that we know works.
Hopefully we can accomplish all those goals. That's,
Maybe you need a motion.
yeah.
Well, it looks like Grace has a motion. I'd like to make a motion to leave the ordinance the same, but understand we would need to make adjustments to the ordinance long-term when it comes back up.
Actually, it is coming back up now. So I'm not sure, Grace, I'm not sure I would do that. Because it is coming back up now.
You have another question? Let's hear from the mayor.
Yes.
Mayor?
Sorry, I just wanted to quickly say something. This is now moved to the first nighttime meeting of the year, which will be Tuesday, March 18th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. So throughout the month of February, there's community engagement. All district advisory boards will be hearing the presentation from law and then gaining feedback from community as well as the DAB board members. And so all that feedback would then be presented to the city council at the March 18th meeting. So again, the March 18th meeting is the first nighttime meeting. So I encourage you all to attend or also give your feedback to each of your council members. But again, as of right now, correct me if I'm wrong, is it legal or illegal to drive a golf cart right now without this ordinance?
On the city streets, it is illegal to drive a golf cart right now,
Anywhere or only specific speed limits?
anywhere.
So thank you very much for that clarification. So if you couldn't hear what you said, currently it is illegal to drive a golf cart in any city street, whether 30 miles and over or 30 miles and under currently. So the proposed ordinance has not passed. It has not passed. It only went to first reading. It has now been pulled. Therefore, the city council now has another opportunity after more community engagement to craft or tweak the proposed ordinance. But as of right now, golf carts are illegal to operate according to state law.
Yes.
Can you go on a city street?
Would we be able to attend your workshop on this issue?
It's not a workshop, it's a regular city council meeting.
I think we're,
Workshop.
February 9th.
yeah, Mayor,
There was a workshop and then the meeting.
Yeah. we do have a workshop.
Sorry, my apologies. Councilmember Johnson is the only one that has to have his DAB board meeting in March. Therefore, we are talking about it at the February workshop, crafting or editing the proposed ordinance after gaining all this feedback. But again, just for the record, 4 individuals on the council wanted to make it legal. That was the impetus of all of this, is 4 council members voted yes to make it legal. Maybe the restrictions went too far, but the reality is currently at this very moment, it is illegal to ride a golf cart on any city street.
May we attend the workshop but
Yes.
not comment?
Yes, you may. You're always welcome to attend all city council meetings, all workshops, and they're also available online.
All right, thank you.
All right, one more comment?
So Auburn Hills is currently a city golf course, correct? So people that play golf at a city golf course are breaking the law by driving across the streets to get to their holes in. Is that what you're saying? So how is that? I don't even understand how that can even.
It's illegal.
But you guys
We're a
made it
bunch of
legal.
law-breaking son of guns, you know?
But it's,
Well, no,
but it's a city
across the
golf
street,
course.
across the street, no, there's a tunnel. There's a tunnel underneath.
No, there's some that you actually cross over a street. Yes.
Yeah, you try, yeah, you do.
So you're illegally driving across streets at a city golf course.
And Auburn Hills made it legal to take our own personal carts on now.
Yeah, they have trail fee now. Last year was the first year they have trail fee. So people can drive their golf carts in. I've seen them driving them all
So they're
down,
all breaking. the
all down
law.
135th.
But the city made it legal. But it's not legal, so that makes zero sense.
It's illegal everywhere now.
The city hadn't done anything yet.
No, Auburn Hills, it's legal to take your own carts.
All right, I think we
Across
have
the
another
streets.
motion on the board,
Hey.
so I'd like to bring it back to the board.
So Grace, I want to make sure you hear me on Zoom. I have I guess you could call it a substitute motion, or if you want to pull yours, and mine would read something like this. I would move that the city of Wichita enact an ordinance that legalizes the operation of golf carts within city limits, subject to less restrictive provisions than in the proposed ordinance.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's second. Okay, we got, all opposed,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All
May I
opposed?
ask a question? I wanna know in terms of, what are we discussing in terms of less restrictive? Because less restrictive, because how far does that go? That could less restrictive include removing the license requirement? So that, I wanna get a craft on less restrictive.
I think we're gonna have to figure that out in the workshop.
Yeah.
And the other city council members. I'll have to figure that out. I obviously have heard what this group wants, and I will advocate for that. Wholeheartedly, so I agree with it. But there's 7 people on the council. And, we just need to get 4 votes to maybe come to where they would like to go. So it's gonna be a working process. So I can't really tell you. Yeah.
Okay, Teresa, did you get?
No, Dennis, could you say your?
Yeah, I would move that the city of Wichita enact an ordinance that legalizes the operation of golf carts within city limits, subject to less restrictive provisions than in the proposed ordinance.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you all for meeting
When is your
tonight.
workshop in February? Do you know yet?
It's the last Tuesday in February.
Tuesday in February for the workshop.
9 a.m.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank you for
night.
coming.
Thank you.